Hi, I'm Andrew Opie, Director of Food and Sustainability at the BRC, and I'm here to talk about the importance of border checks and a trade policy to our supply chains. So where are we now? Retailers are still adjusting to the new EU border checks post-Brexit, so that means new checks on imports coming in from Europe through our ports. They're also trying to adapt to the changes that were introduced through the Windsor framework for the way that they move food from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, which has added to their complexity and impacted on what was before a seamless UK supply chain. So what would we like to see? Firstly, we'd like to see any renegotiated deal with the EU that helps reduce friction at our ports for both imports and exports. Secondly, we'd like to see that negotiation with the EU also incorporate changes to the Windsor framework, which reduce the cost and complexity for our retailers moving products to Northern Ireland, so those Northern Ireland consumers have the same access and choice and affordability as every other customer in the UK. Finally, we'd like to see a more progressive trade policy that actually uses our new trade deals with countries around the world to increase the focus on things like human rights and reducing the environmental impact of the products produced in other countries, which are then imported into our supply chains and sold to our customers here in the UK. So how do we get there? Firstly, we need to make sure those negotiations with the EU result in a new trade agreement that tackles not only the friction from food imports and exports from the EU, but also helps us with some of the environmental controls which are on products such as deforestation, for example, to make sure it's as frictionless as possible. Secondly, let's look again at the Windsor framework to really deliver a proper trusted trader approach that rewards retailers and reduces the unnecessary friction that we're currently seeing in our supply chain to make sure Northern Ireland customers continue to get the great food and affordability and choice that they get at the moment. And finally, let's work with other countries on our trade policy to make sure that collectively we can make the biggest difference to workers in our supply chains and to reduce the environmental impact of the products we source globally.